The voice of a verb tells whether the subject of the sentence performs or receives the action. There are two voices, active and passive. With the active voice, the subject performs the action expressed by the verb. The order of the sentence is subject, verb, object. With the passive voice, the subject receives the action expressed by the verb. When writing for business, the preference is to use the active voice rather than the passive voice, as this keeps sentences more alive, strong, and brief. However, there are some good reasons to use the passive voice. You can use the passive voice to highlight the action rather than the subject or person. In passive voice, nothing is ever anyone's fault because people do not do things. Things happen to people. When you need to be tactful by not naming the subject or person, it's better to use the passive voice. You should also use the passive voice to describe a condition in which the subject or person is unknown or unimportant. Sometimes you need to create an authoritative tone, and this is another time when it's best to use the passive voice. There are a few ways you can identify when you're using passive voice in your writing. Sentences where the action or verb comes before the subject are often passive. Here the verb was opened comes before the subject then. Changing the order to subject, verb, object changes the passive voice to be active, and now the subject performs the action. A second way to identify passive voice is to look for the by phrase. If you want to change the sentence to be active, begin with the subject, which was highlighted by the by phrase. Finally, to identify the passive voice, look for the various forms of the verb to be, like is, are, was, were, will be, have been, and should be. These verbs don't always mean the sentence is passive, but they can give you a clue. Just one more thing. Sometimes writers confuse passive voice with past tense. Both active and passive voices can be any tense. Have a look at examples of present, past, and future tense.